2.
Hello, welcome to Reading Ravine. I'm your host, Dr. Buzz. Today's story is narrated by Spirit Kevin, illustrated by brother Michael. And now, Curious George goes to hell.
Once upon a distant time, early in life's journey, George did find himself lost in the basement of a 5 and dime. He remembered tearing loose from his mother's hairy hand as the escalator neared the bottom, and although the sign said step up, George's feet remained flat, for he knew curiosity killed the cat. But wasn't he a primate, and above all that? Down, down through the floor rode George. 9 times his eardrums popped, and when the descension finally stopped, cut in stone a sign that read, "Abandon all hope, ye who plan to enter the land of the dead, unless your height exceeds that of the clown's head." George stretched his neck until slanted brow cleared red wig, as a shade in a blue blazer appeared with a tiny white poodle that appeared to be sheared by a 3rd grader with a tuna can lid.
"Hello," spake the specter. "My name is Scott, and I'll be your guide. This is my dog Trixie. Down, Trixie, bad dog. Go for a walk outside. Now, people, the ride through the horror of Hades is a bit bumpy, so I'll be handing out steaming hot cups of coffee. Stay in your seats. I cannot stress this enough, and that means you, George. Foreshadowing, foreshadowing. I'm a foreshade, I'm a foreshade."
George climbed aboard and took a sip. The cart lurched forward. He burnt his lip. Then before his open baby blue sphere, mechanical spirits from the past did appear. There was Hamlet eating a rotten Danish, a hall of vice presidents apologizing in Spanish, Nostradamus, Nicodemus, Rasputin, and Faust. There was Ozzy Osbourne singing an aria from Deflator Mouse. But behind the facade, George heard real screams leaking. Now that sounds like hell, and that's where I'm seeking. "Back in your seat, you naughty monkey, you know the rules. After him, Trixie." But George, quick as a hiccup, rounded the corner and ditched his guide, spied a door that said Non Sagrada Familia, and popped inside. "Ah, this is more like it," said George, as he approached a woman who had 6 children affixed to her 6 breasts. Excuse me, ma'am, excuse me," said the simian. "Could you tell me the hideous sin that brought you to this condition?" And she spoke. "Well, I wish I could, but it's been so long I've forgotten all that." "Well, obviously, there's my original sin, but that's old hat." "Well, perhaps it has something to do with these children," queried the ape. "Oh, no," she said, "these are my pride and my joys. On the right are the girls, and on the left are the boys. But I'm afraid these boys have stayed on past their prime, and these girls bite down without reason or rhyme." George said, "Well, at least the 2 on the bottom, they seem content." "Oh, yes, too true they are," she said, "but they hurt most of all, for they take no nourishment. I can feel their tiny lips, but they won't take their part, and there's nothing more painful to a mother's heart." "Well, it seems your only sin was to love and to care. That's not fair." And as George parted, he heard, "What can I say of right and good? All I know is motherhood." And as the monkey pondered what he had seen, his path suddenly stopped and revealed a ravine. "Hold on to the rope, soldier, we'll pull you through." And out of the bile came a band of men walking single file. They were horribly disfigured and ragtagged and bandaged, each grasping a rope by whatever means they could manage. Then George noticed before the first man, the rope hovered by itself over the land. "Hey, you have no leader. Who are you trying to kid? This jarhead has too many holes in his lid." And again the trooper, "Take hold of the rope, soldier. You'll see what I mean. The few and the proud will get you past this ravine." And as George's paw touched the hemp, instantly at the front appeared a glorious chimp. It was muscle and hair and a jaw like a bucket. "Whatever I was gonna do," said George, "I'm gonna chuck it and follow this simian saint. He's all I admire. He's the M what I ain't." But as they marched forward, George's tail became caught in a tiny tree. "Wait for me," he cried as his hand pried free, and he watched as the soldiers marched straight off the ravine and tumbled and crashed and cursed till they lit at the base of the pit, picking themselves up worse for the scrape, and followed the leader that was less than an ape. George's spirits now fell deeper. "Oh, please let this nightmare end, and I promise I'll be good." And when he opened his eyes, there stood a woman of such perfection, George did concur. "Well, if I had known she was going to be down here, I'd have combed my fur." "Well, hello," said our charming chimp champ. "What brings a Victorian secret like you to our dismal camp?" And as he spoke, a tiny surfer shot through the wave in her coif. She grabbed for the tiny Adonis, but he was through her pipeline and off. "Oh, pooh," she said, "missed another." And she took her manicured claw, dug out one of her cheeks with her hooks, exposing a peep show in the back of her cranium, where, behold and lo, George witnessed various endorsements for beauty aids and fashion tips. "Oh," thought George, "this must be a commercial. I'll just wait here for the show to begin. I hope it's the Love Boat. Even for TV, that was a sin and should be down here somewhere. But as he witnessed the ads, it became more apparent that there was no substance. Hey, where's the attraction? Shouted the fur-bearing fella. That does it. I'm out of here. Doobie, doobie, surf, doobie, ciao, Bella. Hey, you, he cried to a man on the perch. Me, said the old geezer. Yes, can you see a way out from your shelf? Do you like it, said the man. I built it myself. This tower was made from self-respect, but I'm afraid it's collapsed due to neglect. The other spire was the pillar of society, but those darn kids have taken those bricks away. Well, said George, why don't you climb down to the ground? Oh, no, said the man, for what it's worth. I've been up here so long, I've lost touch with the earth. You know, said George, you look familiar to me. Yeah, said the man, now that you mention it, I'm starting to see that your face rings a bell that once told for me. There he is, it was Scott, sick him Trixie. And from that meek little cataract pet grew 3 hideous poodle heads, gnashing teeth, putrid breath. George was out of the door in a blur, on his heels, fangs and fur, fast as he could, faster than fast. In the room with the mechanical chaps, George grabbed Jack Ruby's slippers and gave them 3 taps. And as Trixie bit down, George awoke at home in his very own bed, with his mother saying, sweetheart, you bumped your head. And he saw his sister was there, and his brother too, and in the doorway was his dad. And there was George home, and wasn't he clever? There with his family, more familiar than ever.